There was an incident when the leopard was under a chair, and one of our ministers, Michael Silverdale, Minister of Labour, was MP of Minimum, was seated on the chair. I didn't realize the leopard was underneath. And when the third lick on the foot, he stared down and found this growling leopard. He raised his sarong and charged into the main house. Mother was coming down to the rest of the cabinet for the cabinet meeting. She was absolutely living with this. Kotiye, Kotiye, screaming at the top of his voice. Not the kind of Kotiye as you find now, but this is a genuine one. Then she ran me and said, do you realize that we have lost every single by-election we had up to date? And if this man dies, we are going to lose Minimum as well. Typical politicians.
Immediately she saw the practical problem there.
She was not the kind of person who ever forced any ideology on any one of us. If she did, I wouldn't have been in the UNP. She's not a person who said, don't do it. She leaves you don't do it, but they realize themselves later that the men were not suitable. I think I bring Sunita at this point.
Well, she's a remarkable woman. She never suggested to either of the two girls that we should get married. Never produced any young men for us. But I must say, when we found our own, she did disapprove. But very mildly, I think. Very mildly. She went along with it. And every time a marriage collapsed, she kind of grumbled a bit and took it in her stride.
Both of them married against my wish. I didn't want to stop because it was useless trying to stop it. They would have been unhappy, I would have been unhappy. So I let them have their own wish.
Whatever we've done, any conventional mother would have screamed her head off about. But she would sort of resist. She would follow a policy of ignore it and it'll go away.
I've never heard any arguments in the home. If my mother ever lost her temper and said something, which my mother, I've never really seen her losing her temper. I've never seen her stamping her feet or her hands on a table, even with us. She was such a placid person. But if she disagreed with my father very strongly on something and she went on and on about it, he would just make a joke of it. And the rare occasions where I've never seen my father lose his temper with her, but he used to lose his temper very often with everybody else and scream at the top of his voice, and then the whole thing disappeared in a few seconds. And then at those moments she would know to keep silent and just keep calm.
All the children are wise in different ways, but I can't say which one is wiser. They'll get angry with me if I say that. Sunita is very efficient in her work, whatever she does. She's very organized and of course determined and stubborn also.
Sunita was a great asset to the office because one thing, she was absolutely low-key, and this was a great help. And she was able to, in a quiet fashion, sort out a lot of problems without upsetting anybody.
Yes, the fact that we were in the public eye all our lives, more or less, but always in the public eye, has been a terrible nuisance. There was a time when I wore miniskirt, when some photographer chased me all over the fort and took a photograph and put it in the front page of the newspapers. Everybody was horrified. I was expected to have long hair, I cut it short. So, you see, silly, they're so trivial. But these things become important when you are in public life in this part of the world.
I hated it. I hated photographers. Whenever I saw a photographer, I would turn my back to such an extent, and all three of us were like that, to such an extent that there are very few photographs of us when we were young, at various functions, official functions or anything. I hated the limelight. I liked the work. I happen to be a workaholic and I like to do work and I like to see results. But the limelight, I didn't like it. Even now I find it a bit of a joke.
From the day she came out of school, she was wanting to get into politics. And they did get into politics. And they helped me in my elections in Atnagala, both Chandika and Sunita. They took on and the election because I was busy helping the party. And Chandika, of course, took to politics as an active politician, and she did well. So, it was very creditable for her to have been the first in the provincial council chief minister. Then within a few months she became prime minister, within a few months she became president. All this with her own efforts. Of course, the fact that she was still Bandaranayake son also helped, no doubt. And she was a celebrity. So Chandika, I'm sure, I think we agree that she's done well.
Well, this girl, this is what her father used to say when she was a little girl. In the morning when he comes down for breakfast, they used to come down before going to school to say cheerio to the father. And he used to put his arms around the two girls and say, "This is my political daughter."
You see, my father in the latter years of his life, I remember used to tell people in his loud voice that he used to point me out in my hearing, and I think it wasn't an accident. He wanted me to get it into my head, like I'm brainwashing my children away from politics. He used to point me out and say, "This is my child who is going to follow in my footsteps."
Must be the father's courage. Some say it's not like the father. Father was not like her. Maybe the grandmother's, I think. So my father's mother was very determined woman, they say. Bandaranayake. He's got a father's large heart. Father's very large heart, so is his boy. And he's a good debater. I think today he's the best debater in the opposition. On our side, he was a very good debater. He was, for some number of years, he was leader of opposition in the SLP. And he stood up to the UNP, it was 2/3 majority or 5-6 majority. Stood up to that very well. He was, as soon as he came out into politics, I was against her, but he was insisting on taking to politics. He got somebody to propose his name at the party meeting, proposed him as an organizer. So I had no alternative but to accept it. She came into active politics and he was very active. Anur is also like the father, very good at retorting. Even in parliament, is like that, very good speaker is. And he talks very, very fast. He's like his father, he thinks very fast. And he talks to when anybody says anything. And that amuses me. I'm very happy about it. Almost at every meal we talk politics with the children. And children there, actually they got all interested in politics.
Well, it's difficult to do both. Now, my sister Sunetra is not involved in politics, so it's we hardly talk politics, so it doesn't matter. But when the other two are heavily involved in politics, they have two conflicting views. It's always there's a combustion point, as we have witnessed so many times.
With Anura, I had always a good relationship. Sunetra was very reserved and used to keep to herself. So she was not that close to Anura when we were young, but Anura and I were very close. Until recently again, politics came in and spoiled the relationship. But otherwise we were very friendly and we used to have a good time together, a good laugh. We have a lot of interests in common, cinema, reading. Anura is not very interested in music, but Sunetra and I music also, theatre. And we all love reading and writing also. Well, I think the main legacy is what I call the family business. Politics, though we never made a business of it in the sense that most other politicians do. This is a kind of business where we give everything we have and get nothing back from it. Well, I suppose that is chasing us all round, the three children.
And well, if they reject this Bandaranayake family, they have another Bandaranayake who turns in some other party, so it doesn't matter very much. The family stays on. That's not by design, that's purely by accident.
It was a very powerful group, no? And the three children could get together with me. We can very powerful group in this country. I don't know you can ever get another group like that.
She certainly would like to see her grandchildren more, much more than she does. But I think security considerations. But when she does go to my sister's official residence for various meetings and so on, she sees the kids, has a quick chat with them. So that way she gets a chance to relate to them.
It all depends on what they are going to do. I don't know if they want to do politics. I think Niti might do politics. Chandika is hoping she won't. He's fond of horse riding, one after the grandfather, great grandfather. Not the daughter. She's interested in being a doctor. Boy is very knowledgeable, far too knowledgeable for his age. And he's very fond of horses like his grandfather and great grandfather. Does riding. He got a horse at Temple Trees where he rides there. He's got the qualities of his great grandfather, Sir Solomon, more than his grandfather. I must say they are very worried about the mother. but mother's security. Both of them.
My mother is very worried about that herself, and so are my children. Whenever they know I'm going to a public meeting, they keep telling me, please don't go. All leaders in this country have got assassinated at public meetings by the LTT and all that. But then, it has gone beyond that point now. The only thing that worries me, I'm not bothered about my own life, because I believe very deeply in Buddhist philosophy.
I believe in my religion, and I believe in if you have done good work, no harm can come to you. If you have done bad work, of course harm can come. It was quite obvious from Premadasa's death. If you do harm to people and if you don't behave like human beings, you have to suffer for it. That will be ideal situation. The idea if I can have my children and my grandchildren all around me, it will be an ideal situation. Especially before I die. I know that is possible.